also wondering if other life forms may exist in the solar system. Michio also claims that we won't just find any signs of life, but also intelligent life. Our galaxy is potentially packed with billions of Earth-like planets that could host a variety of different life forms. Although the actual number of exoplanets far exceeds the 4,000 that have already been recorded and verified, the number of Earth-like planets in our galaxy is estimated to be around 6 billion. Michio explains that when we do encounter life on other planets, we would first need to determine what category of species they are, breaking them down into 3 types: Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 civilizations. The Type 1 civilization
what are you doing?
Years more advanced.
Gonna beat you.
State on Earth. A Type 2 civilization
You're gonna get beaten.
and would be a few thousand years ahead of us. A Type 3 civilization would be over 100,000 years more advanced, be able to control black holes and roam space at will. Kaku highlights the dangers we face when encountering other life forms, as we are Type 0. After intercepting otherworldly messages, he claims we would need to identify the type of civilization they are and the threat they pose. Though Michio thinks that for the most part they will leave us be, as there's no need to plunder our planet for resources, but they will no doubt be curious. The exoplanet TOI-123. Out of all the space mysteries that haunt our minds, perhaps one of the biggest revolves around a single question: are we truly alone in this seemingly endless black void? That thought alone might evoke scary images of aliens and potential space warfare. However, scientists have yet to discover those classic big-headed and big-eyed aliens. What they have found instead is their everlasting search for spices on Earth are several planets that could fundamentally change our view atmospheric position and planetary formation. One of those planets, or should we say exoplanets, is called planet TOI-123-1b, existing at just 90 light-years away. It orbits a dwarf star and is about 3.5 times the size of Earth. In comparison to what we know in our solar system, it has a similar gaseous climate to that of Neptune. As noted by scientists, it is one of the coolest and comparatively small planets known to date. Exoplanets are large bodies extending beyond our solar system to orbit other stars. In general, they mostly exist in a small region of our Milky Way galaxy in the thousands and rising. As the technologies of space exploration only get more advanced and ambitious, we could see the number of exoplanets increase to the tens of thousands within a decade. Although we cannot exactly go jump ship and live on planet TOI-123-1b due to its small size, its Neptune-sized existence offers a fantastic opportunity for scientists to capture one of the first barcode-type readings of its atmosphere. Perhaps those readings will help us to locate similar worlds. The core of massive dying galaxies already formed 1.5 billion years after the Big Bang. Galaxies can be considered alive, dead, or quenching. Alive galaxies possess current star formation activity, indicating that stars are still being created. Dead galaxies, on the other hand, possess no star formation activity. Quenching galaxies exist somewhere in the middle, but they do not have very much star formation going on. Researchers determine the life level of galaxies by using the spectrum of brightness. Recently, a team of researchers in the Cosmic Dawn Center at the National Observatory of Japan and the Niels Bohr Institute found a distant faded galaxy that seems to have ended life 1.5 billion years ago, 1 billion years earlier than previous studies and measurements indicated. This massive galaxy houses more than 1 trillion stars and is the most distant of its kind to be discovered. However, the research team found that the core of the galaxy seemed to be fully formed only 1.5 billion years after the Big Bang. Masayuki Tanaka, a co-author of the paper and an associate professor of astronomical science at the Graduate University for Advanced Studies and Japan's National Astronomical Observatory, said, "The previous measurement of this kind was made when the universe was 2.5 billion years old. We pushed the record up to 1.5 billion years and found, to our surprise, that the core was already pretty mature. The goal here is to understand why and how galaxies fade away. Francesco Valentino, a co-author of the paper and an assistant professor at Copenhagen's Cosmic Dawn Center, said, "The suppressed star formation tells you that a galaxy is dying, but that is exactly the kind of galaxy we want to study in detail to understand why quenching occurs." Astronomers postulate that massive galaxies like the one in this study are historically the first to die. Scientists further assert that studying these galaxies will tell us why quenching occurs. Understanding how galaxies form, flourish, quench, and eventually die is crucial to obtaining a fuller picture of how our universe works. Hopefully, as scientists and astrophysicists continue to research these galaxies, we will learn what truly makes them tick. New methods for predicting solar storms. An element of weather that you might not even be aware of actually affects life on Earth much more than people realize. Solar flares are high-energy radiation that erupts from the sun's surface, resulting in space weather that affects satellites orbiting Earth and can even short out electrical power grids. One of the largest solar flares occurred in 1859, decades before there were satellite or electrical grids to affect. But another similarly large explosion could be catastrophic for us now in the 21st century. Needless to say, predicting when these flares might occur is vital in order to prevent or minimize these damages. But how would one go about predicting when a gigantic mass of flaming gas is going to erupt into another solar flare? Luckily, scientists have recently developed a new method for predicting these storms, and it seems to be much more accurate than previous methods. After much work with theoretical mathematical models attempting to understand why solar flares happen and exactly what happens as they burst, scientists were finally able to come up with a physical model using NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory, or the SDO. With the data gathered from the SDO, they were able to create a three-dimensional map of the Sun and its relevant magnetic charges. Although the true causes of solar flares are still a mystery, the flares themselves are an explosion of magnetic energy, so scientists figured mapping the magnetic zones of the Sun would be the first step in predicting when and where the flares would occur. Since magnetic fields cannot be viewed directly, scientists working on the project developed software that can calculate the fields in 3 dimensions and create a map of the zones. They then look for locations where the magnetic fields reconnect and create instability, which could indicate the start of a flare. Kanya Kasano, one of the lead scientists on the project, spoke to Earth Sky about their model, comparing it to detecting where an avalanche will occur by looking at the amount of snow on a mountain and guessing how large of a collapse will result from a crack at any location. As it currently stands, the program takes several hours to make a single prediction, but has still managed to predict 7 of the 9 most recent solar flares, which were all X-class flares. Additionally, despite only being in the conceptual stages, it correctly estimated the exact location and power of each flare. Although the researchers are hoping to be able to streamline the process in order to quickly provide more accurate predictions, right now the current method is breaking ground as the first reliable method of predicting these huge, potentially damaging solar flares. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.
Well, this was an interesting turn of events. I'm sure by now you guys know that Microsoft collabs very closely with OpenAI, and Microsoft has decided that
We keep seeing these stories coming out of Ukraine about human rights abuses. We keep seeing these stories coming out of Ukraine about the taking over of the media, of arresting priests, closing down churches, right?
Today's video has a lot of similarities to the video.
the world is on.
A new
Get out of there.
video tool has been released recently.
Almost exactly 1 year ago, massive
Get him.
YouTube.
Get him, China.
It seems like now that the
Naughty
dust has
kitty.
settled with the GPU market, and also
This Word document file. This episode.
The GB News presenter. This picture hides the most disturbing secret. It was taken in the Bahamas on November 16th.
Hello, everyone. Hope. At some point growing up, my vision changed.
Could we build an electromagnetic mass driver to launch payloads in space? Could brown dwarfs be dark matter? And does humanity have the ability to see an Earth-sized world orbiting a sun-like star in the habitable zone? All this and more in this week's question show. It's time for the question show. Your questions, my answers. Now, as always, wherever you are across my channel, if a question pops into your brain, just write it down. I'll gather them up and I will answer them here. Now, before I get into this week's question, Joe, I just want to remind you, I say this at the end of every episode, but I say at the beginning of today's episode, I write a newsletter, an email newsletter. It is thousands of words long. It contains dozens of stories about space astronomy, really cool pictures for each one of the stories. Not a lot of words, like a number of words that you could skim really quickly while you're reading your email on your phone. And it is what I would want to read if I was receiving an email newsletter, and it is like a distillation of every single news story that I have seen in this entire week. So if you want like the most comprehensive email resource, a newsletter for space and astronomy that you can imagine, I guarantee it is my newsletter. Go to universetoday.com/newsletter. Now, we record this show live every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to come and join the live show, ask your questions, do that. Come to the channel at 5 p.m. Pacific every Monday. Now, don't forget about daylight savings time.
This is a 0 yen or free house. That is the buying price, by the way, for real. But of course comes with a small handful of caveats that may either completely ruin it for you or make it exactly what you're looking for. Let's take a peek. It's obvious it's not as simple as I'm just handing you the keys and you walking away with a free house. But as we go through, we'll cover the system and how to find these places and all that. And there's a deck. Okay, so there's a washing machine right here. Seems they were keeping their washing machine outside. And the deck looks like it's in okay condition, mind you. The wood kind of feels like it's bowing a little. Oh, right there. It's not too bad, but if I lived here, this would probably be one of the first. I'm not going to jump and shake. It would be one of the first things I'd replace. Let's take a peek inside. There are over 8 million abandoned homes and properties in Japan, and wow, this entranceway is distractingly nice. It keeps that log cabin aesthetic with the walls all the way in. Look at this. Okay, we got slippers right here, and put them on. I guess we'll start right here with the main room. You know what? Let's get these curtains open and get some extra light in here. Abandoned homes are known as Akiya in Japan, and there's a whole handful of ways to get your hands on them. And what is going on over here? We got a blackboard with what seems to be an old school desk. Even though we're in the mountains, we have a box full of snorkeling equipment, some tools, and then some phone guides and yellow pages for Chiba. Also very much in love with this little Sanyo cassette radio player here. One of the most common ways is by going through like an Akiya bank, which is how my buddy Yota ended up living in an abandoned school out in the mountains of Shikoku. He used an Akiya bank.
空き家バンクっていうちゃんとしたシステムがあって、そういう人を探している人と提供したい人が
This is such a typical old Japanese gas stove, but with IKEA Bank you tend to have to do a lot of work and incur a lot of the costs on your end, and it's harder to find zero in places. So there are also matching services that you can use. Fridge opens. I also love that this drawer doesn't say eggs, it says candy. That is a candy drawer. How's the freezer doing? Oh, okay. Yeah, we can just go ahead and close that. I think that pretty much sums it up for this room, except there's an entire upstairs section as well that we gotta check out. Now, this place was introduced to me through a gentleman who started his own matching service after realizing that selling the house that his parents left him would actually cost him more than just giving it away for free.
壊そうと思ったら300万円ほどかかると。で、300万円で壊したとしても土地でなかなか売れなかったんですね。で、そんな時にタダで譲り受けてくれるっていう方がいたので。
So he was kind enough to introduce this place to me and basically teach me the entire system. But next up on our tour is the restroom area. The mirror placement here is a little bit unique, and it's got what might be one of the oldest Gillette razors I think I've ever seen. And you don't take it from me, I clearly don't use the razor. And the bath here. This is a really nice bath. All wood bath. In case you didn't know, Japanese often shower first in this area and then will enjoy the bath instead of washing themselves in the bath. This bath alone would make it a really nice vacation property. I am a little nervous to check out the toilet. There's a whole slew of reasons, by the way, that properties go abandoned in Japan. The most common is that it ends up getting passed down to a family member who didn't need it or can't make use of it, and doorways are always so low. But on top of the cost of tearing down a property being tens of thousands of dollars more often than not, like in many other countries, just holding on to property in Japan is not free. It comes with quite a few taxes, and that is actually... This is a 0 yen or free house. That is the buying price, by the way, for 0 in places. How's the freezer doing? The house that his parents might be one of the oldest Gillette razors. Whole slew of reasons. A whole slew of reasons, by the way, that properties go abandoned in Japan. The most common is that it ends up getting passed down to a family member who didn't need it or can't make use of it, and doorways are always so low. But on top of the cost of tearing down a property being tens of thousands of dollars more often than not, like in many other countries, just holding on to property in Japan is not free. It comes with quite a few taxes, and that is actually a really nice toilet. Like, take a peek at this. All things considered, that's actually, I love the bamboo. Oh, wow, it swings. Okay, I was not expecting the swinging. But where's the rest of the toilet? Where's the rest of the toilet itself? There's no it's probably going to a septic tank then? Yep, that seems to be the case. On the plus side, you do have a little window for yourself. And this toilet is at least 1.5, if not twice the size of the one in that tiny little luxury house that the owner custom made for himself. So not a bad space. Let's take a peek upstairs. As with many homes in Japan, stairs of death. These, I don't know if it picks up how steep these are, but these are steep stairs. So, whoa. Honestly feels more like a ladder than stairs. But it's these taxes, which is why more people aren't buying up these IKEA, even the 0 yen ones, because you're looking at as many as 5 okay, I can't even really stand in here. Let's get to the middle of them, but at least 5 different types of taxes you could be paying. And this room is about as simple as they come, with a bit of a hidden secret that we'll check out in a minute. And also seeing this kotatsu, which is a whole heated table in Japan that they use. Japan does a lot of space warming. It makes me realize that there's no wood stove, air conditioner, any form of heating in this place at all. You can obviously just buy those things after, but they're handprints. That would be creepy if this place was just a van, but that's also why I've been wearing my jacket inside the entire time, because it's actually colder in here right now than it is out there. Nice view. And more often than not, when you want to buy an IKEA or even get a 0 yen place like this, it's the taxes that get you. Now, don't quote me because it's always different from area to area, but there's things like a gift tax, there's a real estate acquisition tax, I think there's some kind of licensing tax, there's a property owner's tax. Depending on the area that you're in, there may even be an urban or city planning tax. There are a lot of taxes, and even just finding out how much those taxes are going to be, more often than not, you actually have to hire somebody to look it all up for you. And of course, finding that person and paying for their services costs money as well. And that's actually how I ended up meeting Mr. Nakamoto for the 0 yen house matching service. I was for a short while thinking of buying an IKEA here in Japan, but when I looked into it, just figuring out how much all the taxes were going to cost me on top of renovations and everything like that, I was overwhelmed, and companies like his provide a service for that, so that's how I went. And there's a phone in there. It's basically just an attic space, but there's this little guy right here. How you doing, man? Cool. There's a Japan Post guy going up the mountain. Love that. I also want to take a peek under the house as well, but this is exactly the type of place that I was looking for, like a little log cabin out in the mountains.
I'm calling through TSA. Hey, how are you doing? Heading to Atlanta? Check out the Coca-Cola factory. Hey, Vegas, always double down on 11. Hello, I'm Shane Moss with the Here We Are podcast and the Mind Under Matter podcast, and this is the time I took mystery drugs before getting on an airplane. I had finished this psychedelic comedy tour. It was 111 cities. After this tour, I'm getting ready for a flight to a comedy club, and I pull something out of a drawer, and something falls out, and it's this little medicine bottle with 2 mystery capsules in it. And so I was like, well, only one way to find out, and I popped one of those capsules in my mouth, and then started driving to the airport. This is the point. Already you should be probably gasping at home. You did what? You just took a mystery capsule? Do I need to give a disclaimer for this story? Is anyone watching this? Like, maybe I'll pop mystery capsules and drive to an airport. Why would you do that? Why did I do this? I have no idea. I was just in a mood, and I pull in, and I start feeling a little something. I haven't felt this feeling before. It's quite nice. Is this 2CB? Oh my gosh, that's what it is. In the psychedelic culture, kind of a mythical psychedelic. Here's why. There's this chemist, Alex Shulgin. Alex Shulgin starts making novel psychedelics that no one had ever tried before. He had about 10,000 trips. He invented about 180 new good psychedelics. Those were just the ones that he liked. And 2CB was his favorite. I'm on 2CB for the first time, and now I'm going to go into the airport, and that's when it hits me. The other description that 2CB has is that it is quite manageable for a psychedelic. So of course I pop that other capsule, and then I'm off, and I go, and I'm just in such a delightful mood. By the way, this is how either the best or the worst drug story starts or ends. Do I need to tell you again not to do this? When I'm not on stage, when I'm not on camera, when I'm not podcasting, I don't talk to anyone. I was the shyest kid you'd ever meet. I'm calling through TSA. Hey, how are you doing? Heading to Atlanta? Check out the Coca-Cola factory. Hey, Vegas, always double down on 11. Somehow I've turned into Vince Vaughn on the movie Swingers. The plants in the airport have never looked so almost real. Not to mention that this is an aphrodisiac. I'm half aroused and just throwing myself a parade. I rode on an escalator. I realized I hadn't rode on an escalator in my adult life. I've been on thousands of escalators probably, but I haven't ridden an escalator since I was 3 years old, whereas an amusement park, you're on 2CB for the first time where you probably had twice what you're supposed to take and you're on an escalator, you don't know what's going to happen. I take the long step over the part where it tries to eat you. Not today, scary robot steps. I get on the plane. Now it's keeping it cool time because you're on a plane. Planes can make emergency landings just because they get a whiff of like someone did a big pen or something. I'm one of the happiest people on earth in one of the most miserable places on earth. How does that not alert anybody? And I get in there and there's a guy already in the aisle seat. And I'm like, hey, I'm in the window seat. And he just does a little scooch, just a little scooch back. Under any other circumstance, I would have been like, first time flying, you know, like you need to, you actually like get up and then I get in there and then you get back down. But because I was on 2CB, I'm like, oh, I get to crawl a person. This is amazing. He didn't know what he was going to get crawling over his lap. That he was just like, I'm committed to this. I'm like, who is that's a power move. So I just closed my eyes and watched the best plane movie that's ever been shown on any plane. Was right behind my eyelids. It was a fantastic flight. I'm re-remembering how magical and amazing flying is. Plane comes down. A couple hours later, I'm starting to come down too. Immediately, so I'm like, okay, I'll just wait for. Now he's got to get up now. We're deboarding, and guess what happens? Is they bring his wheelchair out. The man was in a wheelchair. He couldn't walk. He couldn't get up. I was almost the biggest asshole that there's ever been, demanding that a handicapped man stand. Instead, I just got a good climb going, and we high-fived. It taught me to just have more patience, and sometimes in situations, you don't know the full context, and maybe you should give people more credit because there might be information that you don't have. And that's when I realized that because of 2CB, finally, at 37 years old, I was all growing stuff, and all growing stuff, and all growing stuff.
Tales from the